I guess it's just in comparison to the map of Mirage, which they've been playing so regularly as of recent. Nonetheless, it's not in the pool this time. We get a bit of a change, Vince, and we're already into their T side.
Can they fare better in the pistol? No, and he can't, Tom. Spoiler warning, they get wrecked. Oh my god. It's one of the quickest pistols you'll ever...
Has left a hole, but it seems like they've got the players that can fill it. Like, a couple of the wins they had, I wrote down the stats. It was like Brokey went, I think, plus like 30 and then plus 8, plus 31 and plus 18 in the two series that they managed to win. I think he definitely has that star potential. It's just not quite consistent yet. And someone like Rain, who I feel like has always been put on the back burners. Like, obviously, there was a year where I believe he was like top 10, top 5 in the world. But he always seems to be one where it's like, oh yeah, he's that player within Team Niko, or he's that player within like another highlight player. Whereas now I feel like he could easily take up that mantle. We've just seen in the pistol round, the man's skill is off the chains.
Yeah, and you won't find many people that are his teammates that have a bad word to say about him. In that interview that you highlighted earlier and you touched on with Yanko, the player that he gave a shout out at the end to was Rain for just being the best teammate you could ever ask for. He's a very humble guy, incredibly skilled, not having any issues and taking some of the more difficult roles. But it is going to be Rigon while flashbang taking off the head of Olof, and that opens up some business over on Ivy.
Oh, this is where they were scariest yesterday. I sort of made up my own stat that I genuinely believe Contact won more rounds where they didn't have a full buy than when they did. And the interesting thing there is they won 0 pistol rounds. So that's not including pistol rounds. Their force buys were pretty good. They did a lot with the Deagles, and they're starting to do it again, Vince. That's already another Kirby goes down. Brokey looking around, trying to find the angle onto one of these players. He spots out Esperanto, his Baltic brother, but the fact is it's Spinks doing most of the damage. Rain already tagged, and Spinks is just going ham. 3 kills with the Deag. Cold, the only one remaining, but they are at least tagged.
Tagged low and in range of the Brazilian. He's been in so many situations like this over the years, and he's come out ahead so many times. 2 players exceptionally low, 1 bullet away from death, and Spinks, the only healthy-ish player that he has to really contend with, and it will be Spinks, the Israeli, putting the Deagle to use, fitting with the 4K.
Shot was clean, and although like I know what to expect from Esperanto. I've been watching him since he was like, I don't even know, 14, 15, playing in like the Lithuanian leagues, playing matchmaking and showing that he's already better than me. Definitely was humble back then as well. But when it comes to players like Spinks, I haven't necessarily seen too much from him. He really impressed me yesterday, like individually so solid, and that seems to be the thing with this roster. Now, Esperanto, I'm hoping we get to see a secondary player gets onto the CT side. He didn't pick it up yesterday. It's a role that's sort of been taken, and Kirby's actually making this one relatively costly. Rigon's just killed himself. Now we're in a 2v2.
Oh, coldzera with the Deag from downtown puts it in the head of Esperanto, and there's Kirby. Faze Clan returning the favor. Whatever Contact can do, they can do better, it would seem. And now Contact, they're in a position where they may have to force. Snappy was down to $1,500, and they force buy. Let's see if the sequence can continue.
I have a feeling this is going to be a brain melter of a game. Like, it just... There's going to be so many things that don't make any sense. Both teams seemingly fairly unstructured in the way that they're taking things, which I'm not necessarily surprised at that by Faze. Like coldzera taking up that sort of in-game leader mantle and trying to put the pieces back together after we've seen Niko leave. On the other side of things, well, we had the other interview with Snappy where he said, even I don't know what my team are doing half the time, which I won't lie. That's not a good thing to say, but it seems like at this point he's just rolling with it.
Looking to roll out with some frags additionally with their 2 AKs. It's about to say 2 pistols, but Rigon has upgraded from Spinks to the Galil. Don't have any smokes or flashbangs though, just a Molotov. And some M4 spray, but it is actually Contact that are coming out well, with Olaf Meister going in for the spray alongside Kirby, and 3 kills in quick succession will put Faze into a 3-on-1. It was looking grim for a few moments after Main got aggressed on, and Snappy, the Danish element of contact, stumbles against his compatriot of Kirby. 3-1 the score, and contact now finally have to tap out an eco.
Something I also noticed from yesterday's matches is that Snappy almost lurks. This is not going to be a comparison that people enjoy if they're a fan of Snappy, but in the way that Happy used to do, where it's like it would either be really good for a flank if his teammates get the kills, but if they don't, it just seems like he's completely out of the round and doesn't really achieve too much. And it always became infuriating watching Happy towards the end of his career in, well, at least in Counter-Strike, where you would just be sat there like, why is he there when the rest of the team is on the other side of the map? And I got a few similar occasions here where I'm just sort of like, okay, well, surely he should have been wrapping around Ivy a little bit sooner if he's actually going to help his team.
Yeah, sometimes just it does feel disjointed, you know, and I wonder if that's, again, one of those situations where they're trying to find their identity just as much as FaZe are. It's something that Snappy talked about FaZe. But maybe the same could be said, you know, reflected in the mirror. And that is the issue that we both touched on when they were against Heroic. That there were so many rounds where contact had poor buys, they were in awkward situations, and just raw skill came to the forefront. Good flashbang from coldzera, and he follows it up. Otto goes down, and contact, they can't really gasp a breath. Like, the second they start pushing in, they just get repelled.
Back for more, trying to find out information, but maybe slightly an overface. Already had the man advantage, and that's always the thing. Like, this map is one that allows for an awful lot of aggression. That is a really nice nade as well, and Rain, he just turns the tide once again. Doesn't overface, doesn't overcommit, just smokes off and falls back. They're probably going to have to reposition because Kirby's spot is not really safe anymore if they don't have pop control. The remainder of the T's, well, Ivy is being watched, but it's watched from afar, and this almost feels like a domino effect. I feel like if one kill goes the way of the T's, then everything falls apart. Kirby, though, maybe not. He's trying to hold it together. He's the tape for the team, and he will keep things going for FaZe. Look
forward to seeing how he evolves in the upcoming 10 or so rounds.
It's also one of those spots as well where statistically, if you're doing incredibly well, that probably means that the other team's screwed, because it's a really difficult position to play. And that's something as well I'm sort of highlighting earlier, where it's like, although it might be a role he's very good at, it's not a role that's easy. Like, it always seems to be some of the tougher positions on the map that he is actually renowned for. Ramp is another one. Like, chances are you're going to get rushed and flashed and pushed very aggressively in these two spots, but he seems to thrive. Now, the start, again, has not been great. I expect Contact to do much better on the CT side of this map, but they need to sort of get that momentum building in their favor on the T side, because although we have seen in the past a lot of CT-sided maps, some teams have started to do a lot better on the T side, at least in general. I think online Counter-Strike has definitely helped with that. Olov, though, under pressure from the Deeks, but they are doing something that even Heroic struggled to do yesterday, which is seemingly keep this quite clean.
This is the passivity element of that hold as well. Him and Kirby are playing in tandem so well. Anticipating an eco, don't want to get rushed by Tech 9s or any of that kind of garbage, and so they pull back. They allow Contact to come to them, get that crossfire set up, and they get a clean sweep of a round. Contact now, though, do have an AWP in the hands of Otto. He's had a bit of a slow start, 1 in 7. But I don't think he's had an AWP until this point, Tom. Do correct me if I'm wrong. So maybe this is where he can start to show his finished power. He has had one already. Okay, there you go.
He got insta-killed by coldzera on B, and then Esperanto picked it up. So
that was the really bad push. Right.
Yeah. He just got owned. I think it was glass cannons. This is the first time he's actually had it with Kevlar. Yeah, he had it for such a short time. I'm not surprised you missed it. And again, like, they get the opening pick, and then there's no real fallback. There's no real push together. One man pushes out Ivy. There's a good reaction from Olov, but it has come back to a 2v2. Otto's AWP finally being able to be put to use. However, Cold and Olov have had a pretty good start to this game. Bomb yet to make its way towards the site. And you can actually see Esperanto's trying to make a play. Now, we see him do this quite often. On Mirage, in fact, he did this with the bomb, which both of us we're left holding our breath, but somehow he managed to make it work. He's walking backwards into Ivy, though, and needs to make sure he catches this close player. He's going to check and wins the duel. That may be the most important duel of the round, because that allows them a lot safer plant positions, although I'm a little bit wary for Otto, because he's currently holding. If he goes down, this gives Cold a real chance.
It doesn't. Cold doesn't actually have to go out and peek, but he does for your information. I was going to say, if he sat in there and waited for the bomb to get to deliver, even when they're up against it. But Faze Clan straight back into another buy, albeit only $350 for Olof and $450 for coldzera in the bank.
Nice set of grenades. Obviously, a lot of utility needs to be used in A main in the early stages of the round. You see a lot of players trying to push out into Olof. Interestingly, we may see him do that a little bit later on. I wonder if he calls it out as, guys, there's one... Actually, wait, I'm not going to say that out loud. That sounds suspect as hell. Moving on. It's going to be Esperanto, up aggressive. And he's managed to catch out at least Rain before he falls. The bomb yet to rotate in. And look at the flank that's coming in from Otto.
Well-placed Molotov here, beyond 14 kills, by the way, with just 2 deaths. A player that's been under a fair amount of scrutiny over the last year or so. One point was at the very top of the world. Does seem like FaZe will be going back for a save, though. It's the AWP and the AK that will traverse into the next round. Doubtful that Contact, on a pretty weakened economy, will want to throw these guns away. So at least Contact, though, is starting to get ahead of steam on their T side of train. And we discussed this yesterday, Tom, that, well, and actually a bunch at the DreamHack Open November, that even if you do have a rough start on the T side of train, as long as you can get that 5 or 6 round mark, honestly, you've done a pretty decent job. So don't take your eye off the ball here, Contact. You've got every chance of getting a really solid half of Counter-Strike under your belt.
Shoot and then jump. I feel like he did. I feel like that wasn't quite as impressive as it looked. Maybe my eyes are just too slow to actually pick up on it, but either way, it's going to be aggressive again. Snappy, he's almost looking to be that entry role now. We saw him lurking around Ivy in some of the earlier rounds and has just switched up the pace completely. Hasn't had a massive amount of success, but this time again, he will get rid of Kirby. That aggressive main position has been a problem so far for Contact. I think they will also know, however, the likelihood of Rain being close.
coldzera, perched up in the ramp, decides to actually pull back. The timing's worked against him. Down he goes. Snappy trying to spray at range. Brokey, though, holds the line. But realistically, only holding the line to pull back on the safety harness and go save again. Because Contact's aggression on B, after getting opening picks on A, has been a bit too hard for FaZe to contend with it. We basically left coldzera all alone in a really awkward position. And they've made the most of it, and a lot of credit to Contact. A lot of those rounds that FaZe were picking up looked incredibly one-sided. We're never really in it. Otto has the right idea, but doesn't really want to throw this AWP away unless he absolutely has to. There is also a flank element coming in from Rigon, but he's very slow. May not get in amongst the action anytime soon. And so FaZe should hold on to their 2 weapons, but Contact are now on a spree. 3 in a row.
Really nice start from Snappy. This round in particular, he was integral. Like, he not only denies both players in the A side, but it means there's no rotation. Nobody's going to be running in that direction from then onwards. Also, the timing that they catch onto coldzera is nigh on perfect, knowing he's likely there alone. Look at the scoreboard as well. You got Kirby 14 and 3. Rain currently up there with 9. And then the rest of FaZe have been a little bit quiet. And I sort of mentioned it previously. Like, the series that FaZe have actually been able to win, it's been Brokey just going off the chains, like having one of those star-studded performances. And thus far, it's been a little bit slower. Now, he does have his ult back into this round, but his opponent is also with 1 in play. Rigon, however, is going to go down trying to push the edge of the smoke, and that's almost too easy a kill for Olof to take.
Olof has been around the block too many times to catch him off guard, and Ivy when he's holding that angle. This is a map that, in many of his previous teams, he was a monster on. He used to wield the AWP quite a few times. Curious to see what happens in the future if they do go for double ops. And Brokey showing that they don't need to. As long as they have one in his hands, he's worth 2 players by himself. And now Otto, the opposition AWPer on 8 HP, doesn't really have too many options. The bomb is dropped back towards the T side of the map, near the spawn. And so that 3-round spree that I was discussing before, seeming like it's going to come to an abrupt end, and that's just in time for FaZe. They can now start to build that economy. No kill forthcoming. Olof will pick up the AWP. No, actually decides against it. Wants to hold on to the AK. That's fair enough.
Yeah, decent round for FaZe, and we do see Brokey step up and get himself a couple of kills. But it's sort of like these kills that you're seeing that it almost feel like freebies, and it's what we see a lot on Train. Like, I feel like there's so many teams that just play this T side incredibly loose. They don't necessarily have a lot of like decent executions to fall back on, and most of the time it almost seems like they're just trying to catch timings onto FaZe at this point, which hasn't necessarily been going too well thus far. Back to B they go. They managed to pressure Cold last time, and a rotation will come in early from Brokey to try and support his Brazilian teammate. He'll be playing a pretty close angle, one that's fairly easy to get overwhelmed. Also has an incendiary ready, but he's not going to be throwing it out. Just holds the angle. Instant first shot, second as well for coldzera. And now, well, they've got to go for this. The bomb's down on the deck, and he's making this look easy. They might have found him earlier on the edge of the smoke, but this time the timing wasn't so lucky.
There's very few players on the planet that you would not want to feed 1v1s down in a claustrophobic angle than coldzera, because he is going to punish you every single time. The guy is just fire. Do not feed him any fuel at all. Snappy, 1-on-5. Similar situation to Otto in the previous round. No control over the bomb, and really just maybe trying to think of some ideas for the next round in terms of a call. And coldzera puts the 4K down range.
Thing even remotely strategical. It's been very, very reliant on picks. There was obviously the pistol round they managed to win off the back of Spinks very early on. Then we had Snappy in a couple of rounds who basically just ran out of A main and managed to catch them out on B. Other than that, I've not really been impressed with what they've been throwing in so far. And in terms of utility usage, yeah, there have been a few basic smokes, but I don't feel like they've been particularly utilizing them too well. Not that I really expected much more, but again, it has to be Snappy finding a kill. Now they're going to patiently wait on the edge of the smoke and go for the same play, but there hasn't been a rotation back yet. Brokey is just waiting. No presence shown on A, so no reason to rotate.
None whatsoever. coldzera actually backing off so he won't get affected by some of those flashes that are tossed over the top. Now that he has a secondary smoke put down onto ramp, was tossed in from the connector rotation. I think it was Brokey that threw it in. Allows him to stay alone again for a little bit longer. Flashbang through. Countermeasures deployed. Doesn't have much left, though, in surplus. Only one flash to go, but now has Brokey coming in. Here come the swell of grenades, blotting out the sun with smoke. coldzera steps up to the mantle, puts 2 kills down range, 2 HP to his name, and tons of damage to Snappy. It's a 2-on-2, but coldzera's given them a very good chance of clutching this one out. It's going to be a post-plant on top of everything else, and they have 2 AKs to come back with. Esperanto's timing is slightly off. He got a bit sidetracked, I think, from that flashbang that threw him out of a loop. But Snappy will get the drop on the first. No idea as to where Olofmeister is. He's about to find out firsthand. The bullet sprayed out from the top of the train. Snappy behind in terms of hit points. But Olofmeister turns around at the worst possible moment. He outgames himself.
I think he thought that Snappy had already run around the back of Oil and was starting to worry that he completely missed the timing, and in fact ends up feeding the in-game leader that extra kill. And it's very intriguing to me that Snappy actually decides, okay, I'm not going to use the M4. Did he have no bullets in it? Was that the case? Because he just went for the Tech 9 out and out for the clutch, but, well, almost killing Olaf with his own weapon. Maybe somebody finally getting some revenge with the Tech 9.
And they're not slowing down either, Tom. Snappy feeling it after clutching that 1v2. Now going back out into the open again. He's had mixed success. A couple rounds he's got plenty of entries and sometimes picked off first. 3v3. Olof holding it down on the trains. Dropping down as Spinks gets the upper hand onto the veteran. The Swede will have to be on the bench for a little bit longer before the end of this half takes shape. Rigon had a bit of an off game, was one of their top players yesterday. And coldzera doing laps around Ivy will be joined by Brokey, the Latvian, down to just 42 HP. Post plant again. I've spotted one of the two players in the form of Spinks. We'll have to think twice about re-peeking on his low HP. Now a HE tossed in case he's playing up close. This is mainly to bait out for Rigon, though. The bomb is planted for his location, but now that his teammate's gone down, it may force Rigon into some overextended peaks, and in doing so, he gives himself up to the Brazilian, who devours him whole, and Faze will have a 9th.
They actually didn't have a kit in that retake as well, so a bit closer than maybe suspected, but a 9-5. Faze looking good. Of course, we're still yet to see what they'll come up with on the T side. And this is one map where if a team's disjointed, I'm actually more worried about their T side than anything else, because even if you can call a successful game, it's one that's super reliant on the entry frags and super reliant on you having the good utility usage to force players into more awkward positions. So far, Contact, they've relied again. Like it's Snappy who's brought them through the majority of the rounds, even if he is only on 9 kills. And some of the stars of the show have gone a little bit quiet. Still, though, if they do get even 5-6 rounds, which they have on the T side, it's workable. Like they can do it on the CT side, although they might have to break the train of losing pistol rounds.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You're always going to be on the back foot when you do not win the last 5 pistol rounds that you've played in this tournament. So maybe that will change and their fortunes can as a result. Doesn't seem like they'll be successful in the last round of the first half. This being their choice of map, starting on the T half. But did mention earlier on, you get 5 or 6 rounds, it's not too shabby. They're still in this. Everyone barring Rigon alive. Otto closer to demise than the rest of his teammates, and 2 of them outside of Pop Dog, maybe going to be going in for a pop flash into a push. Esperanto, typically one of those players that you're looking at to perform well. As Olofmeister opens his account on Ivy, he goes down, but damage inflicted. Also saw the bomb drop out. They know it's an A hit. They'll have to position accordingly. coldzera again, and again is showing his worth. And his team are a player to the good, but for how much longer is yet to be seen. Otto goes in for 1. It's another even trade. 1v1, slight health advantage favoring Esperanto. And the Lithuanian up against the Norwegian, looking to come out with a wide pretty standard, especially on a map like Train, where there will be some further range confrontations, and you want that P250 as opposed to full blocks.
Yeah, we'll see. Even if, I guess the way we can look at it is even if they lose the pistol, they are very good at winning second round. So I guess we can look at that instead. But here we go. Snappy, good position. Esperanto going to be the one taking contact. But we'll see if they can actually hold this position. They're also getting smoked out from afar, so this could become quite awkward. In fact, Esperanto's going to opt to fall all the way back, and Rain has already got that opening pick. They look to try and pressure, and it's not happening, Vince. No miracles are coming alive today. 2 players remaining. Make that just 1. Snappy had a pretty decent first half, at least individually. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Okay, we got 1. He needs 4 more. An absolute miracle needed, and he's being surrounded, and Kirby denies. They are not very good at pistol rounds, Vince.
Bruh. Like, maybe just practice pistol rounds, boys. They're such an integral part of Counter-Strike. I mean, I know it's rough that 1 round can dictate so much, but...
What?
Okay, fair enough. Rain has just pulled off a worldie there. I don't know how you play against that, Tom. He just comes out the corner, insta-taps you in the head twice. Like, oh, fair enough.
How do you even see anything there? Like, what res is that? Like, that you can just see someone for 4 miles away for 0.1 of a second of a pixel, like... You got like special glasses or something that I just don't know about.
He plays with binoculars on, mate.
The thing is, I saw a thing recently, which was like attachments for your phone, and it was like a thing where you could attach anything, and it was like a bloke who'd attach his phone to a telescope, and I was like, that's the most pointless piece of equipment I've ever seen. Deagles again! Spinks! He's so damn good with the dirty Deeg, he'll get 2. And bomb's still going to go down. After plump, this is so stupid. Every time they can't win a pistol, but give them different pistols that kill people while they've got armor. They do absolutely well. Maybe they should just buy deagles in the actual pistol round. But Kirby, he's given them a damn good fight back. 3 kills already. Olov as well is waiting on the ramp. It looks like he's just playing the game of denying the defusal. And considering they don't have a kit available to them at all, they need to get this kill onto Kirby. He's in fact gone for the ace. Seemingly needed to deny the deagles of this squad. He's going to go all the way around. Snappy eventually takes him out, but there is no time left on the clock. They survive what was looking like a pretty brutal round for them. And you have to feel bad for Spinks, because that's, again, he got 4 deags in round number 2. And then in the second half, round number 2, he gets another
kills with 8 deaths. A 4K in that last round basically gets them across that very difficult roadblock in Spinks. Putting contact into just the AK that they are able to save. Couple more deagles in play. But when you have Kirby finding some of that old form, it does give you a bit of hope for FaZe. In terms of maybe a bit of longevity. Maybe see if they can go further on in the tournament. If they do bypass contact. Meanwhile, frags coming out. And it's Kirby again. This time he stands up for 2. Esperanto puts the deagle in his hand and pulls the trigger onto Brokey. Kirby is pretty low, but so is Esperanto. The FaZe have so much time left. They don't have to overextend or overcommit.
It's interesting though. Like, they actually left the AK onto Snappy. So either it's just he had it, so he gets to keep it, or maybe the rest are just so good with the deagles that they're just like, it's actually a disadvantage for me at this point to have an AK-47. The bomb being low is definitely a problem, and they're trying to slowly work out where they're going. coldzera's been spotted, but Rigon, his rough game continues. He was so good yesterday. Struggling now. coldzera should be heard. It should be, but eventually they're going to look in his direction. Shots not being connected by either side, and eventually he'll be closed out. The fact is, it was an elaborate ruse, but the bomb's still not down. It still hasn't made its way to the site either, and Spinks has found a Galil.
His teammate and partner in crime, though, has been decapitated, and that Galil may be short-lived. However, if he can get this first pick, even without a kit, he's made enough ground to get close to the bomb to at least be able to flirt with the idea of pulling this off. And what a turnaround of a round it would be. He's guessed incorrectly, and this is actually going to take up a lot of time. So I think by the fact that he's gone for this decision, he will look to try and save the Galil. Look for Hunt onto one player, but the round is going to go the way of FaZe. Nice frag onto Olaf. He can trade up that Galil into an AK. That's a juicy little bonus, and unless Kirby can shut him down from range, which he's not really interested in doing, he will hold on to it. But FaZe now double Contact's overall score.
Seeing the form of Kirby come back, which I have to say, like, when he joined this roster, I was quite surprised. I was sort of sat there going, like, he fits the bill of FaZe, but at the same time, we haven't seen the level of form that we wanted to for a while. This is a ridiculous performance, though. 22 and 8. He's been entry fragging a lot of the rounds. This time, he's going to take a nasty tag, and Otto finally steps up to the plate, puts him down. Esperanto has managed to miss the ladder, and because of that, well, I was going to say he gets burnt, but never mind. The Molotov doesn't land.
Yeah, it is great to see him play more of an entry role. It's not one that you've seen him utilize too many times, and he definitely has it up his sleeve. But always struck me as more of a kind of static player that used his head a lot more. Maybe this is one of the identity changes that Snappy was alluding to, that we will start to see some players go for slightly different roles or just see what works for them with Niko parting ways. Good shot from Otto. Putting down Brokey. coldzera and Rain both low. Looking good now that maybe Contact will start to get some success on their CT side. It's been a slow start. FaZe winning 3 on the bounce, but it's not just winning, it's holding on to as many of these players as possible as well. Snappy nearly loses his life. Rain's been another player that started very hot indeed over on Pop Dog. Comes right around the corner, takes Snappy off. There's still 30 seconds, and they have the bomb under control. This round maybe hasn't been closed off just yet. Olaf flanking round the back. If he guesses correctly, Otto will be a dead man. He's about to find Otto, shuts him down with a headshot. 17 seconds, and now FaZe are pushing onto the site, but the timing is brutal. Rain at least deals with the threat of Esperanto. Going for the plant, Spinks goes through the smoke. Can he actually shut down Rain, who comes off the bomb? He was caught in two minds, and in doing so, he succeeded in neither. He doesn't get the money count up with the bomb plant, but he also doesn't clutch. It's really brutal. But considering, Tom, that Contact were in such a commanding position, to lose 4 players is actually going to hurt them.
Yeah, I guess the one bit of luck for them is that FaZe's money is as bad as it gets, really, considering the rounds that they've managed to win. Like, they've made things so costly over the last few that it really doesn't matter too much. If they can win this next one cleanly, it's not going to be a problem. Again, though, it's not look good for them. We've seen some weaknesses as well. Like, as said, Brokey a lot of the time has been the sort of star factor when it comes to FaZe. He's not having a particularly good game, and I still think that if FaZe were not, well, basically just relying on Kirby and Rain, this could have been a blowout. But luckily for them, there's been a few clutches going here and there. Another 1v1 that has been won by the side of Contact, and they've had a few of those in terms of their rounds. Esperanto won one earlier. We also had Snappy win it versus Olov, so it could be a far more dominant performance from Faze Clan, but Contact are clinging on. This round, however, has to be a win, and it has to be clean, as you mentioned. If they lose too many players here, sure, there's probably not going to be a buy in the next round either because of the money of FaZe still being awful, but Spinks again. I was going to bring up a stat that I'm fairly certain he'd have got more kills with a deagle than he had with a rifle, but hey, he's put the AK-47 to good use as well.
Yeah, I think that stat may have been overtaken now and overhauled. It's such a good angle, especially if there's no flashes or anything to really force him out of that position. FaZe came through with a force, barely had anything. I think they had an AK, which Contact will certainly accept that generous donation across. And now trailed by 4, but with just Glocks and pretty much $0 invested, surely that becomes 9. If FaZe could even get a bomb plant, that would be nice. And it's pretty standard that if you have no investment whatsoever, that your best hope of getting anything done is just a straight up B hit. Just run straight down, throw yourself into the blender, hope one of the players can cross and get a plant down, and that looks like to be what's going to end up happening here. They also take down Spinks in the process, but there's the 3K. Snappy with 2, and Otto finishes off with the nades. No bomb plants, but at least the casualty came down.
Yeah, that's a huge booster, though, for Contact, and they're not too far behind. I sort of mentioned earlier I would love to see the secondary AWP come out for Esperanto. I think this is one where he actually dons the AWP really well, but it's not something that seems to be within this roster so much anymore. So I think previously we saw Rigon do it, who has been having a bit of a rough time, so it might be a game changer. Nonetheless, looks like FaZe have their sights set on the A site. Bomb and 2 other players looking to go towards Ivy, put some pressure onto Otto. Hasn't had the best game so far, but we haven't seen the AWP from him much over on this CT side. And with a 2-man pick up, a bomb dropped, and only 1 man around that angle. It is, however, Kirby, who, as we've said, has been lights out so far. It's been fantastic, and he's going to get the kill. Swings wide, looks to make this a little bit more costly. It's a round that's looking in failure, but if anybody could win it so far, it has been him. He picks Rigon out of the air, but he is being flanked. Does he expect Snappy to round the corner? Peeking out into Ivy, a nade thrown would give the game away, so he needs to try and keep himself hidden, and Spinks, he is there to deny. A 10th round, the climb back.
Loved every second. Understandable if now and again we get tongue-tied, though. FaZe Clan looking like they've got their shoelaces tied these last few rounds. Contact have definitely stepped it up significantly. And although there's plenty of fire down, they have been extinguished. Just pistols in play on FaZe, and they look to get aggressive in towards Ivy. Another Molly's there to greet them. 3 players clumped up from Contact. They seem to have a great read of the situation. Otto bypassing the first shot to secure the second, and now Olaf rips in with his Tech 9. It's 2 kills alongside coldzera. Otto now has been put down, leaving Olaf with an AWP to try and come round the corner. You began to believe. I was seeing flashbacks of the past.
I was about to say.
He just got wrecked. It's a feels bad, but it is 12-11, and that's a feels good because you've had 2 very one-sided maps today, Tom. We're finally getting a competitive one.
Oh, my eyes just like rolling into the back of my head, like it all going grey, and just seeing him run through long on cobblestone. Ugh. That plat position him with the Tech 9 will give me nightmares for eternity, but thankfully somebody denied him at least. There is going to be a double up setup, but definitely not the one I was expecting. Now, we know in the past there was a time when Yugi was sort of on the bench. We still don't really know why. Personal reasons of Heroic. That's a very easy kill. But more so, Snappy actually used to primary AWP. So he can do it. Not bad at it. Same as we sort of talk about MSL. Normally a bit more of a static AWPer. And in this case, it does look like he's going to be supporting the A site, just waiting to try and watch anybody on Ivy. Because of that early pick as well, it's allowed more of a rotation to help at least on the B site. But for now, it seems like Pop Control is the goal. And Rigon is the man on point.
Well, they flash him in for a peek. If not, coldzera should have him. There's the flash. Oh, no, he whiffs the spray. Those are shots he guaranteed gets yesterday when we were seeing him play exceptionally well. And what an impact at 12-11 this could end up being. They honestly should have both died there, Tom. And instead, they'll be given the green light to start to aggress towards the site. Otto's fallen to the hands of Orf. Esperanto opens up from heaven. Can't see the bomb planter. It's in amongst all the smoke. And now the smoke begins to fade, as will Esperanto. Spinks at range, 19 kills to his name, doing plenty of damage to Kirby. Dropped down to 11, but more damage inflicted to Snappy. He gets tagged up from Brokey's AWP. He'll try and play possum up on the ladders, but the same could be said the other way round. They have themselves Kirby, who's waiting in the wings. There's the first. He'll spin around. He's baiting up enough time for Brokey to white swing onto Spinks. And Rigon will be apologizing to his teammates because he knows that whiff cost them everything.
Either apologizing to his teammates or replacing some of his gear, because that is one of the... That's a mouse breaker right there. That's where you just want to launch it straight at the wall. And well, I guess in that case, you kind of hope he doesn't have a wireless mouse, because that must be so infuriating. Like, he's been having a rough game, and I think it's showing. Like, that will happen a lot of the time, where you just feel like you can't come back from any situation. His teammates are still looking to set him up, and unfortunately, like, that's sort of an unforgivable whiff. Like, that's a very easy kill. I think on any other day, he would have got one at least, like, bare minimum, but likely two, because they were both completely blind. Now we have to look at what they've got invested into this round. The double AWP stays. Again, I'm a little bit disappointed we don't see it onto Esperanto, but as said, that might just be me reminiscing back to like the old crazy roster, which we are not quite there anymore. For the T's, though, this could be a winning moment. They close out this round, 14-11, and things are in trouble. Rigon this time, he does better. When his opponents look into his eyes, he's able to at least take one of them down. And in terms of a trade, losing your one weaker weapon in terms of a rifle on the floor, it's just not the end of the world.
No, certainly not. You can still bank on these two AWPs, but Rain just sat in bathrooms waiting for that push. Esperanto's also pushed up. He's using that pillar as a little bit of sanctuary. I'm surprised that Rain even tagged him. I thought he would go and check. 30 seconds. Snappy will be smoked off, allowing safe passage for the two T's to push out. Otto, though, also on the back of Ivy, makes his position known before Brokey pushes straight through the smoke. Down the heart of Snappy. Esperanto will get Olofmeister, not anticipating the connector push, and now Brokey knows exactly where he is. Goes out aggressive. Oh, what a shot to Esperanto, but he has to go retrieve the bomb. There's not much time left. There will be enough time, though, for the plant, and he goes for the risk. He plants it out in the open, knowing that the player was last seen in Ivy, but Otto was too busy looking towards spawn. I'm not sure why he didn't push in. Maybe anticipated it was a fake. But now Brokey has every chance to clutch this after a lightning fast scope into the first player. He's now positioned himself, the timing slightly against him. Going to be smoking down onto the site. Try and draw him out. Otto has no kit. There's a small gap in the smoke, and Brokey may have just seen him jump up. He wants to get up close and personal with his AWP. Gives his position away. There shouldn't be any time anyway. Even if Otto takes him down, Brokey's clutched this. What a play from the young Latvian.
Almost looked like he yawned midway through that clutch. Maybe feeling a little bit tired, or maybe it's a sigh of around. Both teams' economy on the brink. You can see the rebuy here for Faze is not particularly good. Pieces missing. Rifles had to be dropped. And, well, even after the purchase, if they somehow lose this round, they would be in some real trouble. Not quite the scope rifle I wanted, but Esperanto's had to fall down to a scout. And, well, you can see there are severe pieces missing from the contact buy.
Damage to Spinks is significant. Actually forces his hand to go back up on the train, and in doing so, there's a flash there to greet him. Had to turn to shield his eyes from the burn. And the AK still melts him. And with that evaporation of the defense being annulled at the back portion, there's 3 players waiting, but hefty mollies. 3 of them, a trifecta keeping them at bay, keeping them at arm's reach, while the Swiss player, the Swiss element, tries to come out into the open, but all he'll find is Olaf. And Akiabi, who is starved of kills. The bloodlust has descended. He is insatiable. Nothing but headshots, nothing but frags. And Faze come out 15-11 in the lead. 4 map points.
It's been an impressive performance from him in particular, but I feel like there's been so many members of this roster that we were sort of sat there going like, will they perform, won't they? And we sort of looked at Brokey and went, okay, he's going to be the one leading the charge. I'll be honest, he hasn't really been needed throughout most of this game. When he's been asked upon, when he's been questioned, he seems to have stepped up, but you've had Rain performing to a high standard, coldzera on that B side, on the CT side, they couldn't touch him. And while if it wasn't for, as said, a couple of sort of clutches out from Snappy, like Esperanto winning a 1v1, Spinks with a couple of multi-frags, I don't think this game would have been particularly close. Now they come in with an even worse buy than the last round. Pistols alongside a solitary rifle. Brokey, he's got to be careful here. He is alone, and if he goes down, it could be a rifle into enemy hands and decides against going further aggressive. However, Rigon, he wants to fight this. He's watching them. They're lining up their smokes. He's going to get into a more aggressive position. They'll never expect him to be here. Absolutely no chance. They're all going to go walking past. He's got a chance to get in a multi-frag. Is he going to get it done this time? It's 2 at least. And he's retrieved the AWP. Redemption for Rigon. And he's put his team in with a chance.
It's a chance, but he does get headshot instantly, and that puts it down to Snappy on 46 HP. Rigon really couldn't have done too much more. And now the Dane has his hands on an AK. The bomb is traversing across rapidly onto B site, where Brokey will get it planted. coldzera is waiting, close angle. There's a knife out, but Snap